The moment I wake up, before I put on my makeup, I say a little prayer for you. Walk home in my hair now, and wondering what dress to wear now. I say a little prayer for you. Forever and ever, you stay in my heart, and I will love you forever, forever. We never will part. Oh, how I love you together, together. That's how it must be to live without you. Would only be heartbreak for me. I run for the bus, dear. And riding on think of us, dear. I say a little prayer for you. At work, I just take time. And all through my coffee break time, I say a little prayer for you. Forever and ever, you stay in my heart, and I will love you forever. Forever, I will never will part. I will love you together, together. Then how it must be to live without you would only be heartbreak for me. My darling, believe me, for me there is none but you. Please love me too. Answer my prayer, baby. Answer my prayer. I'm in love with you. Answer my prayer.
Woohoo! Thank you, Lynette. Oh my God. I just love her voice. I am so excited. I am Alexus Rhone, founder of Truth Meets Story LLC and Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine and Vespers. Lynette is my minister of flavor and musical vibes. And I learned something about her this week. I have been a fan of her music and her, like I would follow her, you know, anytime I get an invitation, oh, Lynette Barber is singing at this spot or whatever, I'd always be sure to tune in. And so I was like, oh my God, Lynette, please partner with me. Like, please be my minister of flavor and musical vibes, you know, with the Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine. And she was so wonderful and she was so gracious and so humble. And I was like, wow, I feel like I've like scored this big coup. And I found out that she didn't even start singing until she was 30. And so I was like, Lynette, like, how did you realize that you could sing? And she's like, well, I don't know. It started in the shower. So all this week I've been singing in the shower, trying to see that if maybe at 50, if I got this, you know, if I got these gifts too, and I don't. But what I really am good at is story. Listen, I am killing the game in terms of finding ways to puncture this present darkness. And that's what Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine is. Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine is an online gathering of faith and storytelling. And by faith, I mean mystery. We engage in the mystery of how God shows up for God's creation. And our avenue for exploring that mystery is story, specifically adult storytelling. Now, by adult storytelling, I mean these are stories shared by adults for adults in an adult manner. 7-year-olds, they have a story time and they have story content. And now so do adults. Welcome to the space. Now, I want to bless a particular organization for the healing that's happened for me that permits me to be able to tell the story that I'm going to share today. I want to publicly thank and bless St. Luke United Methodist Church in Indianapolis, Indiana. And here's what happened. A series of things, and I'm going to share a part of it with you, happened. And I just kind of, I was in this fog. I didn't know what any of this meant. I'm like, oh my God, like why has this happened to me in this way? I wrote everything out differently. I just planned everything differently. And fortunately, I was living in Indianapolis, and I received an invitation to an event called it was called the Art and Humanities Symposium. And St. Luke was one of the sponsoring organizations, and they had different events throughout the week. and different venues around the city of Indianapolis. But I bless St. Luke because it was there that I met Brian McLaren. At the time, he was promoting a book called Everything Must Change. And he introduced me to language that helped me to understand like who I am and why it is that I navigate the world the way I do, specifically as it pertains to faith. He says there are 4 stages of faith development. First stage is simplicity. Everything is black or white, God or the devil, good or evil. So that's simplicity. Second stage is complexity. That's where gray enters. And then all of the colors, they find their way. You realize that life is not black and white, that there's, life is very technicolor. The third stage he described as perplexity, as perplexity. And he called that the graduate school of faith development, meaning that's where you ask a ton of questions. And, and a lot of times you don't even believe people who claim to have answers. And the fourth and final stage is humility and harmony. And that is where you accept that there are some things that you know, and there's some things that you don't know. And you lean into that. When this story happened, I believe that I was in stage 2, complexity. I believed in the colors, multicolors, that life was layered. And I was courageous enough to explore those layers in story. Now, at the time, I had been ministering to young people, and my preference was to be to minister to young people within an urban context. I was out of college maybe 5 to 7 years, so was thriving in my career, and I was living in Houston at the time, and I was worshiping at a beautiful with a beautiful faith community, a small Bible church. There were about 200 people there, and everyone was progressive, or everyone was professional. Let me say it was a professional, of a highly educated group that loved Jesus and that really worked hard to, just to live the faith and to experience the fruits of their good works. And I love this community. I was very much committed to investing my time, my talent, and my treasure there. And that's what I did. Well, one day they hired an evangelism minister, a pastor of evangelism. And I just thought that was the best, the most progressive thing that a church could do, that would actually really believe in outreach and then put their money behind it. Like this pastor's role was to strictly do evangelism. And I wanted to be a part of that team. And I still have such loving and warm memories of everyone on that team. They were hilarious because they were so bold, and they all loved Jesus, and they all just, they were like, listen, we got this. We're going to go and to share the gospel in a way that the world will be converted. And they just had such flavor. I just loved being a part of this team. Well, one of the ways in which I wanted to invest my particular gifts and to engage my passion with, with ministering to unchurched youth or youth within an urban context. Down the street from this church, again, we're about 200 people. We're very intimate, very highly educated, and just like genuine lovers of Jesus. And down the street from the church was this apartment complex where a good number of the residents did not look like us. And, for some of them, they would be even kind of like, oh, like these church people. I don't know about these church people. So what I felt like, what I wanted to do, particularly with the young people, was to go into that space and to say, hey, Jesus is cool. These people are good people. Like, we got y'all. Everything is good. Like, we're no judgment. Like, we're just here. We just want to love on you and, want to be here for you in that space. And that was what I did every Sunday, every Saturday. With this program called Sidewalk Sunday School. It was one of my absolute favorite events, and everyone who knew me would donate things for me to do these little giveaways and create these prizes and these competitions for Bible memory, Bible verse memory, and that kind of thing. It was a beautiful group. It really was beautiful time, and I wanted to do more. What I wanted to do was to, in all of the ways that I had found in Ian, a way to connect with urban youth as a person of faith, not as this goofy, hyper-religious, Christian that was going to be measuring like how short were your shorts, which is what happened to me. Like, I didn't want to do any of that. I just wanted to love them, and I wanted to image God in a particular way that was accessible to them. And I wanted to say, hey, and here is a faith community that will do that as well. Like, these people are safe. But I wanted to do more. So I decided to write this book. I wanted to do a full book series targeting reluctant reading teens and preteens, but telling a story about their context. The first book I wrote in the series was called Premature Pleasures. And bless you, all of you wonderful, all of my wonderful fans who, when I posted on Instagram and Facebook this week, you've been reaching out like, oh my God, that's my favorite book. That's my favorite book. So I hope y'all are tuning in. So I bless God for all of you. So I write this book, Premature Pleasures, about an 11-year-old who looks like she's 15 or 16, hooks up with a scandalous group of 15 and 16-year-old girls one summer in an apartment complex in South Park Village, Houston, Texas. The parents are working, the kids are home alone unsupervised, and there's all kinds of drama. And so my main character is getting pulled deeper and deeper into this space until a woman from a church down the street from her apartment complex named Miss Denise comes to that complex and does a vacation Bible school. The kids love her so much that the apartment management decided to give her an additional program that she could do weekly called Jesus at the Clubhouse. Miss Denise loves all of the kids in this apartment complex, but she has her eyes set on this one baby girl, my main character, Trek. She builds that relationship, begins to spend time with Trek, loving on her, laughing with her, inviting her to church. And in the end, Trek ends up making a decision for Christ. Well, here's where it becomes problematic. I told the truth about what happens within that particular context. And by truth, I mean, I'm not trying to shield, censor myself, or do anything. I want to fully lay it out for you, as if to say, God can handle messy situations. This is what the messy situation looks like in these spaces. And here's how God shows up. So that really was, my heart's intention. That was what I wanted to do. The release party, the national release party, was the end of May. And I invited my church to come to come to the celebration. And many of them showed up, and I had a great night of support and on and on. And I was really, really excited. But the very next Sunday, our pastor was leaving for Dallas. He was leaving for a new assignment in Dallas, new ministry assignment. And in this new ministry assignment, we're having this going away celebration. And I'm all animated. I'm like, woo. So I get asked to MC the going away service. And so I'm really excited about that. I get to church about 20 minutes before the service was to begin, because I wanted to, just kind of be in the space and be settled. And, I don't know if we're going to test mics or what have you. So I walk into the church foyer. And one of the elders is in a side room with a family. And that family is saying, so the family's there, they've asked me to come into the room. And so the elder says, well, we wanted to talk with you and to just let you know that the church has a problem with your book. And I'm like, did I lie? That was my question. Did I lie? And it caught them off guard, because it never occurred to them to examine the story based on whether or not it was the truth or a lie. Their filter was, oh my God, children should not be exposed to the truth that they live in. I couldn't understand it. And, but when he says so we're going to have to meet and decide what we want to do. Now I'm thinking, now, why do you have to do anything with my book? I was so totally confused by that whole thing. And now that I know that the whole church has this problem, I have to go up before this congregation and, MC this sending. And my heart is broken. I am devastated. I am leveled. because I thought that I was worshiping at this intimate church where everyone had everyone's phone number. And if ever there was a problem with anything, that you have my number. So of course you're going to call me, right? That's what I thought. And then I'm on the front row. It's praise and worship. That's how we open the service. And I'm so grateful to be sitting on the front row, that I have no vision for anyone who is behind me, and that they have no vision for me, because I'm bawling. My heart is broken. And I'm wondering, how many songs are we going to sing in this praise and worship service? Will we do enough singing to give me a chance to pull myself together? And in that space, in that broken space, the Spirit of God whispers to me, hey, Lex, you know how you always asking for like that Jesus-like experience? You're welcome. And then I said, Lord, when I was talking about the Jesus-like experience, I was referencing Palm Sunday. Like I wanted some Hosanna, like hell, and like there was some celebration, like this whole, Good Friday business. Like this is some bull. This is for the birds. And then the Spirit of God said, I'm with you. Like, and what was interesting about the way it happened, like I'm with you. I was looking for like something like, oh, I am with you, my child. And it was not like that. It was very much like, okay, look, this ain't like, we have important things to do. Move forward. I'm with you. And so I celebrated the fact that God was with me, but I celebrate two other things. There were several people who were part of the congregation who were like, for real, like riders. Like they loved Alexus Rhone. They absolutely loved the book and supported it wholeheartedly. And then there was another elder who called me. And he said, Lex, I have written, he said, I'm an avid reader. I read all the time. And he said, I've read 95% of Premature Pleasures. And he's like, and I get exactly what you're doing. He was like, the reason why the other people don't get it is because they didn't read it. They've been pulling different pieces out of the book, out of what you've been saying. And he said, but guess what? They do the same thing with what God has written. So you're in good company. I celebrate God for those memories and for that whole experience, because I realized that for all of the ways that other people have been hurt by folks in the church, by church folk gossip, and by all of the ways that we just don't all the time fully represent the best of who God is, the way that we engage each other. I'm grateful that I survived that space. Now, the way I survived it was by acknowledging the hurt, by falling way back from the front pew to the back pew, and then eventually to the balcony. I ended up moving to Phoenix, Arizona, about 6 months later. And after I left that church, my church in Houston, it would be years before I would officially join another church. I was a regular attender. The money that I brought in, a percentage did not belong to me. It belonged to the Lord. And so all of that would be handled properly. But the idea of being in fellowship with people who didn't represent fully what they said, it was way too risky to engage that. So I was in the building, but I was on the back pew and balconies of these different congregations. And so I bless God for the back pew and the balcony ministry. Is real. It's real. And I bless God for the space to be able to heal, to find a language, and then to find a way to go in and to trust again. Not that anyone would be different, but that I would be different. And that I would absolutely choose to represent the best of what I wanted to receive. But I'd model it first. So I did end up placing a few calls to folks, and, eventually would have conversations with them. And I can't say that any of those conversations were, quote, satisfying. They were just a part of what needed to happen for me to heal and to go on to the next. But the thing that no one can wrestle from me is God saying, Lex, I'm with you. Like, come on, like we got important things to do. I am grateful. The story that you're about to hear from our featured storyteller also indulges that sense of what it feels like to engage mystery, and for us to be in a space where we're like, okay, God, where are you? And for God to be like, you know what? I'm right here. I'm with you. So please, please lovingly, lovingly welcome our guest storyteller for tonight, Miss Tecca Thompson, who's going to talk with us about the day her mother taught her how to pray. It is not the way my grandmother taught me to pray. So please expect the unexpected in this story. Miss Tecca Thompson.
So this is a really old story with a different twist. And like Lex said, I'm telling you the story of the day my mom taught me how to pray. When I was a little girl, I had a special aunt, and I used to spend the entire weekend with her every weekend. She would pick me up on Fridays, and I would stay until Sunday. But being there with her on the weekend meant that I had to go to church every Sunday. And also going to church on Sunday meant that I had to join the children's choir. And at my church, Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, we were the Busy Bees. And our signature song was, "Oh, How I Love Jesus, Because He First Loved Me." Now, I can't remember any other song that they taught us. It was always an A selection from the Busy Bee choir. But practice for the Busy Bee often fell through the week. And so my mom was then responsible to take me to choir rehearsals. And on this particular day, we had choir rehearsal, and I was with my mom. And we loaded up and we got in the car, and she drove me across town to the church. And as we were driving, I don't remember much of the ride over to the church. It was pretty uneventful. We didn't talk much, but I do remember her telling me, "I'll be back to pick you up in an hour." So we arrived at the church, and I remember running up the steps and through the doors and through the foyer and down into the sanctuary where the Busy Bee choir rehearsal would take place. Now, my church I had a lot of church aunties and uncles, and I love being in that atmosphere because I was accepted. Folks at the church didn't know maybe I didn't have a bed to sleep in at my house, or maybe that my socks were dirty or that they didn't even match. But none of that mattered. No one knew, no one cared. They just accepted me and loved me, and I flourished in that environment at Shiloh Baptist Church. Well, on this day, I remember the choir rehearsal ended, and some of my friends, we were all playing around in the sanctuary like children often do at the end of service or rehearsal. But eventually I made my way back out of the sanctuary and down the steps of the church. And I remember looking down the alley that ran alongside our church, and my mom wasn't there. But I didn't think she was not coming. I was just waiting. And so I waited, and pretty soon all of the other people and all of the other children left the church. And as they were leaving, they said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I said, "Yep, I'm fine. My mom's coming to get me. She's just late." So I sat down on the steps of the church, and I continued to wait for my mom, but she didn't show up. Now, my mom had a friend, Miss Helen, and she lived across the alley from the church. So I decided to go and knock on Miss Helen's door. And I knocked on the door and I said, "Miss Helen, have you seen my mom? Do you know where my mom is?" And she said, "No, I don't." And in my mind, I knew right then and there I was going to walk. I didn't want to ask Miss Helen for any help or tell her what was going on, because as a 9-year-old child, I had already learned the rules of living in a chaotic household, which was you don't tell anybody about what's going on in your family or in your house. So I decided to walk home that day. And as I began to walk, I made up my mind that I was going to stay on all the main streets. It would take me longer to get home, but I knew my mom was coming. She was just late. So I had to stay on the main street so that she would see me and pick me up. So I walked down the first street and I took a right and I began to walk up the first hill. And I remember looking back over my shoulder because I was looking for my mom because she was coming. She didn't forget me. She was just late. I reached the top of the hill and then I had to take a left and I was going to be walking on Park Avenue. And Park Avenue is one of the longest streets in Mansfield, Ohio, but it's also a very busy street. So I can imagine as I was walking down this busy street, this 9-year-old child, that folks driving by wondered, what was she doing out there? It just kind of probably looked out of place to people. But I continued to walk and I continued to look over my shoulder because I knew my mom was coming to get me. So soon I had to make another turn and I walked down a short hill and I was off of the main street, but I hurried up so I could get back on the main street. And I continued to walk and I came to another short hill and then my focus shift. I started to get a sense of excitement maybe or comfort because I thought, well, maybe my mom's at home and she fell asleep. And so I began to feel excited about arriving home and having my mom there waiting on me. Because you know that feeling of coming home and having someone there just waiting on you, it's just like a sense of comfort. So I reached the last hill and I remember straining and stretching to see my mom's car. But from where I was standing, I really couldn't see the car. But as I began to descend down the hill, I noticed that my mom's car wasn't there. And my heart dropped and my steps slowed because not only did I realize that my mom had forgot me, she wasn't at home waiting on me, but I was also locked out of my house. So I continued to walk towards the house and I remembered that I had a secret. If we were ever locked out of the house, we could crawl in through a window because we had a window that was unlocked. So I made my way to the window and I remember pushing up the window and crawling in through the window. And underneath the window, there was a couch. And I crawled in through the window and slumped down on the couch. And I remember feeling this heaviness, the heaviness of keeping all of the secrets, all of the family secrets. But I felt so alone and sad. I began to cry. And they were hot tears. I was weeping and sobbing because I was just so sad and so alone that day. And then I began to pray out and I said, Jesus, please save me. Save me because I don't ever want to feel this loneliness anymore. And I remember that this wasn't a prayer that you learn in Sunday school where you repeat after your Sunday school teacher. This prayer literally came from my belly because I meant it. I didn't want to feel that sadness. I didn't want to be alone anymore like that. And I'd like to tell you that after I prayed that prayer on that day, that my life changed, but not much changed for me in my life. My mom still left me alone. She would forget to show up at events. But I can tell you one thing that did change that day. What changed was my relationship with Jesus. Because as a 9-year-old child, I learned on that day that I could call on him by myself. I didn't need anyone. And so I remember in Sunday school, they would tell us he would never leave you or forsake you. But in my 9-year-old brain, that meant to me that he was always going to be there for me and I wouldn't be alone. And so my relationship changed with God because that was the day that my mom taught me how to pray. By leaving me on those church steps and leaving me alone, I learned that I could call out to him for myself. And that was the day my mom taught me how to pray.
I so love that story, Tecca, and you know this. You absolutely know this. I learned how to pray when my mama left me on them church steps, and I said I can call out to God for myself. Thank you. Thank you for sharing so beautifully. Thank you so much. I'm going to post some of the comments that folks have been making while Tecca was talking. I was like so engrossed in the story. Now I've heard it multiple times, and I'm still like, oh my God, this part. Oh my God, this part, this part. But what I love about the way Tecca shares it is that she does not share it as one who is trying to like, woo, everything is beautiful now that I know how to pray. And she's also not sharing it as one's like, oh my God, can you believe that happened to me? She was like, listen, here is how I learned how to call on God for myself. And I'm like, yes, and amen to all of that. There are three things that we do here um, at Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine. The first is a call to lament. And by lament, I mean, it is where we acknowledge that there are some really jacked up things that are happening in the world. This week, there was we'd been, my friends in Texas had been a part of a search party for a young woman who had been missing. Gosh, it feels like it's been about a month now. And so the longer they go missing, the longer it's like, okay, they're like, this looks like it's going to be a bigger problem. Or there is a finality that we don't want to face. And this week we got the finality that we did not want to face. We lament, I don't want to call her name because they've only been they've not released all of the details. I mean, I did pull up some news reports that confirmed it, but I'll just say a beautiful young woman, her body was found in West Houston after a month-long search with her family and friends. And it turns out that she was the victim of domestic violence. And so I want to, number one, acknowledge that her life was precious. It was important. Number two, I want to let her mother know, and my friends who are watching that are friends with her mother will let her know that we grieve with her as she faces this new reality. And for anyone who is facing a domestic violence situation, I thought I had saved the number, but it looks like it didn't save. The number to the 24-hour hotline for domestic violence, the domestic violence hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-SAFE, the number 7233. Please reach out. There are resources, there are people. You are not alone. You are not a pioneer. And there are folks who have been in that space and they have gotten out of it. So if that is you, then I would encourage you to please reach out. So we lament here at Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine and Vespers. The second thing we do is engage our prophetic hopes. Now, prophetic hopes is what Walter Brueggemann in the prophetic imagination calls the idea of having describing hope metaphorically, but then talking about the newness that comes from hope concretely. Earlier today, I posted a video about a friend of mine who shared an article saying that, many Christians who had previously supported the current president, that they no longer support him, and that they are being vocal, and that they are going into their friendship spaces and circles to convince other friends who still support this current administration to no longer support him. Here's my prophetic hope. My prophetic hope is that people who stake their allegiance to the current president would not loop Jesus into that unholy trinity. It's my prophetic hope. Scripture says that the works of God's hands are faithfulness and justice. And so we invite every leader of every nation to partner with God in healing the world. That's the metaphor, partnering with God. But here's the concrete newness that comes with that. That every act of injustice would be handled by leaders in a way that they'd want it handled if it were them, their child, or their mama. Our prophetic hopes. The third piece that we do here at Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine is we engage in an energizing memory. And by energizing memory, I mean it is where we're like, yo, this thing happened and it was amazing. It was a reason that we're like, yo, everything is going to be good. Here's a picture of me standing in front of an audience at a studio in LA. where I'm producing Celebration LA. It was one of my first adult nights of storytelling events after I'd graduated seminary. And I am there, and a friend of mine was like, look at you all cute and shapely in it. I was like, yeah, I wish I still had that outfit and then the body that could go with it. But I love the body that I got now. And I love the memory and the laughter and everything that we shared at Celebration LA, that particular energizing memory. And by that memory, what I mean is I look back on it and I am energized and I have full confidence that every little thing is going to be all right. And there are going to be more beautiful things. And so I encourage you to go through your energizing memories and do that. And then there's one final thing that we do here at Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine. We talk about giving. A lot of times in faith circles, when people are talking about giving, it is like, okay, your tithes, your offerings, your donation to support the work. Here's what we mean by giving at Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine. Give love, give shelter, give grace to yourself, give grace to others. Give contracts and opportunities. If you happen to be a person who is able to green light some projects and some things, do that. Give it. And you can also give money as well. Find out who has a need. You have a little bit of surplus. I'm so blessed by, I'm going to call my friend Jay Bashir out. She was so sweet when I had sent her the invitation to tune in today. She was like, well, how much does it cost? I was like, it's free, Jay. It's, you know, it's free. And she was like, well, I'm going to pay you what I would pay if I were coming to see this event live. What? And so I was like, okay, so my Cash App ID is $ Alexus Rhone. Like, and she sent that money. And then there have been several friends who've done that as well. So I'm grateful for that generosity, but I'm more than that. I'm just grateful for the space and the time for us to be together and to say together that we're going to penetrate this present darkness, this chaos, with hope, with love, with energizing memories, with a belief that everything is working out bigger and better than we know. Finally, in our sending, I wanted to say, if anyone is interested in learning how to do what you saw me, Lynette, I'm sorry, not Lynette, Tech, but Lynette is going to come up too as well. Me, Tecca, do today. We have several workshops that are coming up. Guilt, shame, and storytelling, I think, is the next one. It could be intro to storytelling. But if you go to alexusrhone.com, you will be able to get all of that beautiful information. All right. So with that, and our sending. May you realize and learn and believe and hold fast to the fact that love is not an option. It is a command. May the command to love lead us towards creative solutions. Ashe, Selah, Amen. Next week, we are so fortunate to have Miss Elizabeth Memory. She's going to be our guest storyteller. Now, she's going to share a passionate story about her late daughter, Lily, AKA the little wiggly thing. And the way she shares that story is so beautiful and so, like, she's just so cool and healed and relaxed. And I cannot wait for you to meet Memory where she is. And with that, I want to say thank all of you. I'm going to pull up some of the comments if I can. Oh, there we go. Yes, I'm gonna pull out of the feed and then just let those folks that are in the broadcast studio see all of the love that y'all sent out. Janelle, Tecca, you are a warrior. Indeed, she is. Look at all of this love. Thank you. Thank you, Yvette. Thank you, Latanya. Mommy, my mama says my stomach was churning, wondering what she might find when she arrived home. Okay, that's my mama. She's always gonna paint the like craziest stories. Mama, it worked out. Mama, she got in all right. I love you, Emma Means. That's my mama. Stainless, thank you. A beautiful one, Tecca. Indeed, it was. Yes, Thelma says I felt her go back. I felt her go back to that 9-year-old girl. Yeah. Wow. All of that. Y'all have been amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Be with us next week, 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, post your comments. Follow Alexus Rhone on Facebook. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And there are a ton of other videos and all of that good stuff. And we bless all of you today. Thank you. Go be contagious with joy and love this week. See you next Saturday, 5:30 EST.